On Zombie Reddit, today's story is...
My brother destroyed my wedding with an unforgivable lie and took my fiancée for himself. 5 years later, karma taught them the most heartbreaking lesson imaginable. There were moments in my life when everything I had built up crumbled before me, without even giving me a chance to defend myself. That was exactly what happened on my wedding day. In an instant, I thought I would be joining the woman I loved to spend the rest of our lives together. The next moment, it was all gone, as if it had never existed. And the worst part was not just bad luck. It wasn't an accident, but something meticulously planned. Orchestrated by someone who should never have betrayed me, my own brother. This story didn't begin with my wedding, but years ago, long before I met Katie. It all started with my brother Marcus and his old girlfriend, Rebecca. Marcus had been in a relationship with Rebecca for several years. He was completely obsessed with her, always behaving as if she were his property. But no matter what he did, she never seemed to show the same level of interest in him. Then, one night during a family gathering, everything exploded. Rebecca confessed in front of everyone that she had feelings for me. I never gave her any reason to do that, and I don't even understand why she chose that moment to make such a declaration. I never did anything that could make her think I was interested in her, but Marcus didn't care about those details. In his mind, I had stolen her away from him. He flew into a complete rage, accusing me of going behind his back, calling me a traitor over and over again. It didn't matter what I said in my defense, he refused to listen to me. Rebecca broke up with him that same night, and from then on, Marcus made it his personal mission to ruin my life. At first it was just words, talking badly about me when I wasn't there, making up stories to damage my reputation. But when that wasn't enough, he started to get more creative. He began by destroying my friendships. Little things, subtle criticisms, sowing doubts in the minds of others. Suddenly a friend would become distant with me, and I wouldn't understand why until I discovered that Marcus had been spreading lies. On one occasion, he told my best friend that I had been criticizing him behind his back for years. Another time he told someone that I was only being friends with him to get closer to a girl I was interested in. It didn't matter if the lies made sense or not. I knew that if he repeated them enough times, people would end up believing them. Then he started interfering with my work. I had a job in a small company after graduating from university, and everything was going perfectly until I started hearing strange rumors about me. A coworker, with whom I barely exchanged words, suddenly thought that I was trying to get him fired. My boss started treating me differently, and I didn't understand why, until someone told me that Marcus had been saying that he was planning to resign and that he was speaking badly about the company in job interviews. My parents ignored all this or simply didn't want to get involved in a fight between siblings. Although this conflict only existed in Marcus's mind, they always saw him as the one who needed more understanding. When I told them what I was doing, they acted as if I was exaggerating the situation. They didn't believe me when I explained that I was turning everyone against me. Even when he once stole money from me, taking several hundred from my wallet while I was staying at my parents' house, my mother simply said that he had probably borrowed it and forgot to mention it to me. So, when my wedding day came, I should have expected it. I should have anticipated that something would happen. The night before the ceremony, I needed some time to myself. Everyone was running around, planning, stressing, making sure everything went perfectly, and I just needed to breathe. So instead of having a big stag do, I stayed alone in the hotel I had booked near the venue. I turned off my phone, relaxed, and tried to enjoy the moment. Little did I know that while I was doing that, Marcus was already setting his trap. Hours before I arrived at the venue, he was already there, and he had brought with him a woman, someone I had never seen before. She had supposed evidence, messages, poll logs, even a video that supposedly showed me with her a few days before my wedding. By the time I found out about all this, it was too late. Katie had left. Her family wouldn't even look at me. My parents remained silent, not saying a word. And Marcus, he wasn't just standing there watching the scene, he was the one leading this fabricated witch hunt. He was the one showing the messages, confirming the alleged details of the affair. And the moment I tried to ask what was going on, he was the one who stepped forward, acting as if he were disappointed, shaking his head as if he had no choice but to expose me. Nobody gave me the chance to explain. Nobody showed me the supposed evidence. Katie blocked me from all sides, and the last words she addressed to me were that she wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. I did everything I could to fix it. I sent her messages. I begged her family to let me talk to her. Nothing worked. Eventually the threats began. If I didn't leave her alone, they would call the police. It was then that I realized that it was definitely over. I gathered my belongings and left the city. There was nothing left there for me. I tried to move on, to leave everything behind. Years passed and I convinced myself that it was something I had to learn to live with. Then, unexpectedly, my mother sent me a message. After all this time, after years without speaking to me, she suddenly wanted to get in touch. In her message she asked for my forgiveness and claimed that it had all been Marcus' fault. That is the summary of my history with my family, with whom I have had no contact for years. Now my mother seems to have discovered the truth, but I am not sure I want to talk to them at the moment. My parents are as guilty as Marcus because they protected him all this time and never allowed me to explain my side of the story. The only reason I would consider talking to my mother would be to tell her precisely that, because they never gave me the opportunity to defend myself. They believed Marcus and now they're probably in some kind of trouble because of their favorite son. What would you do in my place? Would you get on with your life or would you be spiteful enough to talk to them just to tell them a few home truths to their faces? Update 1. Yes, I have been reading all your comments, but even though several years have passed, I never achieved true closure. And I'm not talking about closure where we talk, apologize, and leave the past behind. I'm talking about closure where I can express everything I feel to my parents or whoever else is necessary. For that reason alone, I returned one of my mother's calls, and that's what this update is about. I've discovered a lot of things recently, but first I'll tell you about them and then share my opinion. Not only was she calling to apologize, which has taken her quite a few years, but also because everything had finally fallen apart. After I left, Marcus didn't waste any time. He and Katie officially started their relationship just a few months after my ruined wedding. Not only did Marcus want to destroy my life, but also to take my girlfriend as some kind of revenge for what I had supposedly done to him. Not only did it seem strange to me, but other people also noticed how quickly it had happened. Among them my parents, but Marcus never cared what others thought, so that didn't stop him. Even so, my parents ended up accepting him. Katie's family welcomed him as if he were some kind of hero because he was the man who had saved her from an unfaithful liar like me. They got married, had a daughter, and for years it seemed as if he had won on all fronts. But Marcus never changed, and that's when things started to fall apart for them. At first, everything seemed fine. Katie had gotten exactly what she wanted, a secure life, a stable marriage, a man who supposedly wouldn't cheat on her. But the cracks began to form almost immediately. Marcus was never really the devoted husband he pretended to be. He wasn't affectionate, he wasn't attentive. As soon as he had Katie, he stopped trying. And when the thrill of having taken something from me wore off, so did his interest in her. Then she discovered that he had been unfaithful to her, and not with just anyone. With the same woman he had used to incriminate me, a friend of Marcus or something else. The great savior turned out to be an infidel. I can't be the only one who sees the irony in this. The same woman who, you may remember, had attended my wedding to show evidence of my alleged infidelity with her. Now I wonder if those messages and evidence were manipulated using conversations and photos of Marcus himself. Actually, I don't wonder, I'm almost sure. But if you choose to believe someone so full of lies, you are likely to end up being deceived. That is exactly what happened to Katie. At first, Katie didn't want to believe it. She built her whole world on the idea that Marcus had saved her from a liar, that she had made the right decision and avoided a big problem with me. She ignored the signs. She never saw signs in me because they didn't exist, but with Marcus she lived with glasses that blinded her. Yes, every second it becomes more ironic. But when this woman confessed everything, there was no way to look the other way and think that the wonderful Marcus couldn't do something like that. I don't know why she did it. Maybe out of guilt, maybe out of revenge, because she wanted Marcus all to herself, or maybe because he had betrayed her too. But she told Katie everything, from the infidelity between her and Marcus in great detail, to the lie they invented at my wedding to ruin my life. She even confessed to her that she had nothing against me, but at that moment she would have done anything for Marcus. According to my mother, both Katie and her family were devastated. They bet on a horse that not only didn't win, but turned out to be the worst of all. What's most shocking is that Katie had a conversation with Marcus, not just about the infidelity, although that too, but because he had ruined her life with lies and, from the looks of it, only to destroy mine. He didn't deny it. He barely fought for her. As soon as Katie told him she couldn't stay married to him, he just left. Without a fight, without regret, he just left. Now Katie was alone, knowing the whole truth of what had happened, and she contacted my parents looking to talk to me. It reminds me of the story of the lying shepherd. Except that here the liar is the wolf, whom everyone believed. And when they discovered that it was all a lie, it was too late. Katie had ruined a good relationship with me, or at least that's what I thought we had. And she had a daughter with the wolf himself. That's why my mother was calling me now. They want to talk to repair what is broken and, most importantly, they want me to listen to Katie. Well, in my opinion, I think they are expecting too much. They're expecting me to accept Katie back after she was used by my brother. I'm not interested in taking what's left over from my brother just because he doesn't want it anymore. It's not that Katie didn't know my brother and that's why she believed him. She knew him perfectly well and I think she only used that excuse to stay with him. You can call me distrustful, but for someone to start a relationship with another person, who is also the brother of your fiancé, shortly after canceling the wedding, is very suspicious. And you can consider me a bad person for referring to Katie as leftovers, but that's what she was. She was used by Marcus and I have no interest in accepting her now. Why would she do that? So that at some point she would leave with another man? Edit. I have noticed many questions in the comments of this and the previous post, and I realize that I omitted some details because I didn't want to go on too long. It's harder to correct afterwards if it gets too long. I wanted to clarify a few things, especially about my brother and Rebecca, as it seems to be one of the most discussed points. Let's see if what I have to say resolves these doubts. My brother Marcus was completely in love with Rebecca. Not just in love, but obsessed. They had been together for years, and he planned to marry her. Our family knew this, and for a long time it seemed that everything had been decided. He had already proposed to her and, as far as I remember, he was convinced that they would be together forever. So what happened took us all by surprise. Rebecca mentioned it completely out of the blue at that family gathering, with no warning, no prior signals. She simply announced it in front of everyone, saying that she had feelings for me. And to set the record straight, I never did anything to encourage those feelings, nor did I perceive any signals of that kind. I had hardly any relationship with Rebecca. Just the kind of interaction one would have with one's brother's girlfriend, whom one saw occasionally. After that incident, she tried to contact me, but I rejected her immediately. I wasn't attracted to her, I wasn't interested, and I didn't want to aggravate the situation. I knew how badly Marcus had taken it, and the last thing I wanted to do was make things worse. I've thought about it a lot, and Marcus' level of obsession with her wasn't normal, but neither was Rebecca a well-balanced person if she chose to be with Marcus and then do what she did. Which makes some sense. When all this happened, it's not like I didn't care and let things take their course. I tried to smooth things over with him, tried to explain that I had no part in what she did, but Rebecca made it impossible. Instead of letting things calm down, she kept pushing, sending him messages about how I was a real man and how she preferred me to him. It was sickening, and it only fed Marcus's hatred. Especially as some of the messages were sent directly to Marcus. No matter what I said, he refused to believe that I had nothing to do with it. He took it as the ultimate betrayal, convinced that I had been secretly interested in her all along. That led to our relationship being completely destroyed and to Marcus doing all those terrible things over the years. At first I felt sorry for him, but when he started ruining my life, I lost all sympathy. That's why he wasn't even invited to my wedding. Many people have asked if I plan to meet Katie, and honestly, I'm still considering it. There's no way I can forgive her, much less consider what she expects. But as with my mother, I think that telling her many of the things I wrote here could be therapeutic. I was never able to defend myself. I was never able to express what I thought, whether it was good or bad, and I at least deserve that opportunity. I know that some people believe that I should be more mature and just let it go. But when you have lived through something like what I experienced, saying it is much easier than doing it. You need closure, even if that closure is not what the other person is hoping to get. As for my mother, I have told her many of the things I have written here. I just didn't include them in my update for the reasons mentioned above, plus the conversation contained a lot of personal details that I didn't want to edit later. But if you want a summary, my relationship with my parents is completely dead. Update 2. I'm surprised that many people agreed that talking to Katie to tell her the things I mentioned here was the best thing to do. I was hoping they would advise me to do something else, something that wasn't vindictive or anything like that. We met in a place in my city. I wasn't going to make the trip to see her. I didn't think it was worth the effort. When I arrived, she was already sitting in a chair. And she wasn't alone, she was with the little girl she had with Marcus. I don't know exactly how old she is, but I guess she's about 5 or 6. Katie was noticeably nervous and didn't know how to start the conversation. Meanwhile, her daughter was looking at me with big, curious eyes. I felt sorry for her and for thinking that she could have been my daughter, but everything turned out very differently from how I had planned my life. Katie had changed over the years. She didn't look as good as I remembered, probably due to the stress of living with someone like Marcus. I know that a person like that can make your life miserable, and that's probably what happened to Katie. Even so, I didn't feel any affection for her. She was so nervous that at first she seemed to be stuttering. She wasn't forming coherent sentences that I could understand, but even so I understood what it was all about. She had always been the person who solved his problems. They weren't big problems, just minor things, but she solved them anyway. The real reason she was sitting in front of me now was because everything in her life had fallen apart. She wanted me to fix it like I had done before, but it wasn't that simple and I wasn't going to let her think it was. She had questions, too many questions, and I wasn't going to let her avoid answering them. First, I wanted to know what was really on that video, the one that caused so much destruction, the one that ruined my life. She had told me that Marcus brought a woman to the wedding to incriminate me, but I needed to understand exactly what had happened. She hesitated at every turn, then explained that the woman who arrived with Marcus that day was an old friend of hers. Well, I already knew that. What I didn't know was that this woman appeared in the video, in bed, but at no point was I seen or heard. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All that I had suffered had been for nothing, because now he confessed to me that I had been so easily convinced. He never questioned Marcus's story. When the truth finally came out that Marcus had been cheating on her with the same woman he used to frame me, she also realized that it was probably Marcus who appeared in the video, the person who was recording it. But even after everything had fallen apart, Katie had not contacted me directly. And now, after all this time, she was sitting in front of me asking for help. If she could so easily believe Marcus's version of events, she might also believe that I would forgive her and help her. Maybe even take care of her daughter, which would be very convenient for her. My intention was to tell her everything I needed to express, but I still needed more answers and the child was present. Which I found even more unpleasant, because the only reason she brought her along was to arouse pity or to stop me from telling her what I had planned. So I asked her, why? Why did you believe Marcus over me? What was it that made you trust him so much? She replied that she had had doubts about the marriage for some time. She had the typical pre-wedding nerves, and the trials and tribulations had convinced her that she shouldn't marry me. But now she realized the mistake and that it had always been me who should have ended it. So she asked me to at least give it a try to see if our relationship could work. She was now single and in the process of getting divorced, so it was the ideal moment. Neither she nor my family had even asked if I was with someone. I wasn't, but she seemed to assume that even if I was, I would give us a chance because... Well, I don't know why. I told her no. I told her I wasn't going to pick up what Marcus had thrown away. I didn't use those exact words because her daughter was present, and I made it very clear that I was referring to her and not the child. I can be spiteful, but only with those who really deserve it. I told her never to contact me again. After leaving, I wrote her one last message before blocking her, where I expressed everything I thought without holding back. I think writing is a better way to express yourself because you can take the time to think it through. You can be more direct if you want. Again, I'm not writing this to look good. I think I've done the exact opposite. But life isn't perfect and you don't always make the best decisions. I also don't think I deserve eternal punishment just for giving back a small part of what they did to me. And for using their daughter in the meeting, I think I deserve even more. Update 3. This is crazy. I have to update this story, but I'll be brief. I am extremely horrified by all of this. Right after Marcus and Katie's divorce, she was granted full custody of the child. This is not what horrifies me. It was the most normal thing if Marcus didn't care about his daughter at all. What terrifies me was what Katie did next. Katie left the child at my house without warning. She didn't even try to talk things through or make sure the little girl was well looked after. She just abandoned her on my doorstep in the middle of the night. I discovered her the next morning when I was leaving for work, sitting in the doorway shivering with cold. The girl told me that her mother had left her there and driven away. I immediately called my parents to explain the situation. They came to pick her up straight away. But I've also contacted Child Protection Services, because I think Katie deserves some kind of punishment for doing something like that to an innocent child. At least my parents decided to take temporary custody of the little girl, as neither of her biological parents wanted to take her. This happened a few weeks ago and I don't have much news. I don't talk to my parents about this or any other issue. I only unblocked my mother to warn her about what Katie had left at my house, but after that, after making sure the authorities were involved, I blocked her again. They seem to keep trying to drag me into their lives, but I'm much better off staying away from them. I don't know how much information I will be able to share in future updates because my contacts are limited. But if I discover something worth telling, I will make a new update. If I don't come back, you know why it is. Don't ask by private message. Update 4. It's taken me a while to get back, but at least I have an update on my story, relating to my ex's arrest for leaving her daughter on my doorstep. Although there's a lot more to tell about that in this update. Katie told the police that she only left the girl at my house because I was her biological father. There is no possibility of that because I left long before the girl was born, long before my ex could have got pregnant. But as I could be lying, I had to undergo a paternity test just to prove it. The results confirmed the obvious and at least I could get rid of that problem. But Katie wasn't so lucky, because even if I had been the biological father, she would still have abandoned her daughter on my doorstep. Even worse, without warning me and leaving her to spend half the night completely alone. So they gave her a year in prison for that brilliant idea of hers. I don't know what she was expecting, that I would take care of her anyway. My parents are still the child's temporary guardians, but they plan to become her permanent guardians, suing both Katie and Marcus for child support. I don't know if there is a possibility of legally adopting her, but they insist that both of them should pay for the care of their daughter. I have spoken to my father after years of not doing so, just to bring you this update that so many of you have asked for. I hope you appreciate the effort. And no, they are not happy about being parents again at their age. But I see it as an opportunity to get it right this time. We don't know where Marcus is, but the legal proceedings against him are ongoing. As for Katie, we know exactly where she is, and when she is released she will be obliged to pay child support. Do you think Katie was always like that, or did Marcus simply destroy her to the point where she ended up in this situation? Update 5. Marcus was tracked down after my parents sued him for his daughter's alimony. But the circumstances in which he was found are what's really interesting. Although now that I reread what I wrote, it seems that he had been found dead, but that is not the case. He was found by the police trying to escape to avoid paying the arrears in child support. And when they arrested him, he resisted arrest and also assaulted one of the officers with a stone he found on the spot. Another officer had to restrain him and shoot him in the abdomen, a wound that was not life-threatening, but which kept him hospitalized for weeks before being transferred to prison. He will spend the next 3 years there serving his sentence, only to then have to pay child support, as Katie is doing now. At least the judge ordered the sale of his car, the only property he has, to cover the arrears. I can't be accused of being vindictive because none of this was provoked by me, although I admit to feeling a certain satisfaction that it ended like this. I no longer have any contact with my parents, and I obtained all this information through someone else. It's someone I didn't mention in the story, so I don't think it's relevant to name them now. I'm just clarifying this in response to those who accused me of having forgiven my parents.